doing pretty good. Hello, Miss Dead Inside. How are you? No, I have not really been out of the country, only to drive through Canada when going to Alaska. So not really ever out of the country. Well, Stanzy, I was really little, so I don't have a lot of memory of Alaska. We lived in Alaska for a few years as a family, and I was like 3, 4 when we left. So I really can't speak to how Alaska is. I don't have much memory of it. I'm in Maine currently. Hello, ads. I should have known that you'd be the first one to notice that we had another Squishmallow. That is Rosebud. She's my little mini pig Squishmallow. Yeah, I think Rosebud is cute too, ads. I think that the Squishmallow pigs are absolutely adorable. Right now, Stanzy, I am doing Twitch and the Zebra Pig social media platform full time. And as long as we can make that sustainable, I will continue to do that. Yeah, as you do. You always notice the Squishmallows. You're always the first one like, hey, there's somebody different in the background. What was my dream job as a kid? Well, Nelly, that changed frequently. I had a lot of like ideas as a kid as to what would be cool as an adult. I think that the one that I most frequently landed on was being a professional writer and writing novels. I think that was the profession that I dreamed about the most as a kid. So, ads, if Otter feels up to it after his stream, the plan is for Schmoops Otter Nonsense to join us for a part of our stream, as long as he has enough spoons after his stream. Oh, and the laptop being dead, that is so my life. I'm always forgetting to like plug stuff in. So you went to a festival for theater kids and you got a duck? Lily, you got a duck? Like a pet duck or like a stuffed duck? Do I write a lot? Yes, Stanzy. I have a blog that I've been keeping, close to a decade now. And I also have a hobby that I write fiction. So yeah. Well, Wisebit, we can talk about life, the universe, everything, nothing. We could talk about Doritos, whatever. Or it went by and I'm like, I don't know where it went. That's possible too. So welcome, Otter and Raiders. We appreciate you coming and joining us. And hi. 20 to 30 minutes. He's got to go get snacks. That seems fair. Snacks are like all important. I mean, I think that this chat of all people will understand the need for snacks. And we're going to do a posture check. Thank you, Abby, because I'm definitely all slouchy again. Right? We always end up like, snacks! It's all about the snacks! Yeah, Zim, you gotta make sure you have snacks. I ate before the stream, so I'm all snacked up. But of course, I've got my coffee and my electrolytes, gotta have the drinks. Because I'm like a fish, I'm always drinking. So there was a game that you participated in at the festival where you bought rubber ducks and you have to find its pair. Okay. Well, that sounds fun. I really like rubber duckies probably more than is rational. Especially with all the new rubber ducks where they're like got all these like personality quirks to them that are so adorable. Like the Halloween rubber duckies are so amazing. I think the Frankenstein rubber ducky is one of my favorites. Oh, Miss Rutch, you know the game with the rubber duckies that you have to match them? I don't go to many fairs. I think the only festival that I've gone to is the Cheese Festival, and there wasn't exactly games. It was just a festival where you ate lots of cheese. My elementary school principal used to give out rubber ducks. It was so sweet. Oh, that's awesome. Ruin Lab. I think that would be so much fun to like go to different like vendors and like play some of the fair games, but this is not right now the best time for us to be out mixing because, well, I could get sick. So here I am staying, hiding, because, man, the respiratory risks are high right now. You got a duck that looks like a green owl. Nice. Okay, so we're talking about rubber duckies, so I'm going to talk about it. So my recent obsession has been a new game that I've been playing. And it's a rubber ducky game. And I have to make sure that I get its name right. Placid Plastic Duck Simulator. It is absolutely amazing. I love this game so much. I have spent way more time than I should confess. And just tell me when you're ready, Otter. No rush. We're going to be on for hours. So in this game, you like collect the little rubber duckies and you get to like watch them bob around in the pool, and you get to watch them engage in little different shenanigans as they like float around. And it's just a observation game. You don't like really do anything. It's listening to music and just vibing with the ducks. So it's not a game to play if you're looking for active stuff. It's a game to play if you're trying to rest or like reduce your energy and chill your vibe. But yeah, I've been totally obsessed with these duckies. People are trying to stage a coup at your country as we speak. Yeah, democracy is almost crumbling here. Oh my goodness. I have not read the news today, so I didn't know that that was going on. I'm so sorry. Life is a bad mulligan. Blah. Mulligan, well, everything is so crazy right now in the world. It's like reading the news is like watching a train wreck that's on fire and is just carrying dumpster trucks. I don't know. It's just, everything in the news is just one thing after another of things being so crazy right now. Ugh. You made some spooky Danger Noodle fan art. Oh, Zim, I look forward to looking at it. I'm assuming that you're going to be posting that in the Discord, which of course I will check, and yay, Danger Noodle art! The festival was inside because we stayed in a hotel that was connected to a convention center, and thespian troops from all over the state came to compete, perform, look for future colleges, and learn by taking different workshops. Oh, Lily, that sounds like it was super fun. Look it up. It's probably on the news. But it's been contained. Well, I'm glad that it's more of a contained event. And yeah, I will definitely be looking at the news. I do look at the news every day. I just haven't yet today. I usually like do my stream prep stuff, my stream, and then after my stream, I usually do all of my social media things, including looking at where we're at in the world and news and politics and all of that. So I'm sorry that that's happening. That's got to be very stressful. They have arrested over 170 people. Whew. Quite a few people involved then. A pretty large event then. It just feels like the world is in chaos to me. And I'm not trying to say that it's different than any other time or it's worse or any of that. It just might be because I myself am not as well equipped to deal with it as I normally would be, but it definitely seems like the world is just a lot going on out there. How did I get into my name? Well, Dr. Joe Dada, I took the zebra part from the fact that in the medical world, a medically rare case is referred to as a zebra, and the Ehlers-Danlos Society uses it as its mascot. And since I have Ehlers-Danlos, I took the zebra, and the pig or boar is my totem animal, so I just put the two together for zebra pig. So that's why it's a pig with a hoodie. I learned how they fake fights in plays and musicals. Oh, well, that sounds really cool, Lily. That sounds like it was all kinds of useful things and fun. 2023 is 2022 on steroids. Oh, Mulligan, I'm really sorry to hear that that's like how it's going. It feels like every year just in some ways seems to escalate, and it's just, I don't know. I don't know how any of this is going to be resolved and settled. We are actually living 2018 part 5. Oh, so it's like, I'm sorry, I don't know a lot about the history of your country, so it seems like this is like a ongoing kind of historical thing. It's not like a new event. I think part of it is that with social media, everyone can report everything at any time, so it's more in our face constantly. Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it, Mr. Arch, for sure. Like, we definitely get more news more quickly, and we get more coverage of even smaller events. Like, I mean, when I was a kid, we didn't get news about world events unless it was a really large event. And now with social media being what it is, we hear about even smaller events worldwide. So yeah, I definitely think that is part of it for sure. Don't worry, it's fine. I'm used to it. I'm having fun. Well, I'm glad that you were having a good night, Mulligan, but I don't think that any of us should have to be used to it. And I think that that's what's rough about our world right now, is that we are all getting used to things being in a pretty crappy kind of state. And I wish that none of us had to. I wish that we could, as people, figure out how to get along better and how to resolve our differences without making it a physical conflict. Hey, Alex, thank you. I am glad that you like the new overlays. Series Skulk worked very hard and has gotten our overlays all done. So our theme for the channel is really coming together, and I'm really excited about it. I think it looks really good. I like all the color and yeah. Yeah, so I'm glad that you like it. Oh, go take care of your dog, Otter. Don't worry about it. Your dog needs to get to the vet. He just had something in the backyard bite him. Yeah, definitely go take care of your puppers. That's definitely important. No worries here, okay? Which, just like everything else, there is a good side and a bad side to it. There are things that have been exposed that really needed to be, would not have been without it. But then there is some real inane BS that have been spread that did not need to be. Yeah, I agree, Ms. Raj. I think that there are definitely advantages and disadvantages to having the increased communication and the increased news coverage and world connection that we have. Because, yeah, we definitely can expose things in a way that we didn't have the possibility. And we have an ability for people who are not in any particular profession to be able to speak out and give their take on events and add their voice about what's going on, and kind of in an unfiltered way. So we can get a more complete narrative because we can hear more voices about it. But that also means that we have to deal with some of the problems that come with it, for sure. And that means that we're going to be hearing about things that are dumb and inane, absolutely. But I also think that means that we have to figure out how we get around the computer programs that increase the problems of echo chambers and facilitate this reinforcement of ideas rather than fostering the sharing and mixing of ideas. So yeah, I think that that's definitely a mixed bag. I almost started crying today because I found out that Leaves from the Vine is dedicated to the first, Ira VA that died. I thought it was dedicated to someone in the creator's life. I'm not even really familiar with the song by name. It might be one that if I heard it, I was like, oh yeah, VA is a voice actor. Oh, okay. Oh. I'm like, I don't... Thanks, Miss Ranch. I always need translations. VA stands for Vancouver, right, Mulligan? Or Vermont, or... I was like, I don't know. There's so many possibilities. Uncle Ira from the Avatar, the last Airbender voice actor. Gotcha. All right, it's all coming together now. And that's the... And Leaves from the Vine are the song, is the song. Gotcha. All the pieces are together. Thanks, Miss Raj. I totally needed that translation. Things make more sense now. There are a lot of things in The Last Airbender that I think are really thoughtful and beautiful and considerate to both the people that helped create it and contributed to the process and to the cultures. I really, really appreciate the way they went about making the series and the things that they chose to include in it. Leaves from the Vine, falling so slow like fragile tiny shells drifting through the foam. Little soldier boy come marching home. Brave soldier boy comes marching home. And the original Uncle Ira voice actor died in 2006. All the pieces. Boop, 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 boop. I got it now. And oh my God, I gotta change hats. This hat is so toasty. It's cooking my brain. Yeah, I know. Context is everything. I'm just in here going, said it to the voice actor who died, but in this series, the song is for Ira's son that died in the war. Yeah. I was gonna say, I know that's the song that's about his son, but yeah, okay, that's cool. So it sounds like Otter's not going to be able to join us because his pupper's is having problems and has to go to the vet, which is definitely more important than hanging out on a stream. Otter and I were going to be talking about neurodivergence and our experiences with neurodivergence, which we can absolutely still talk about. Kind of sleepy but can't sleep. I hate insomnia. It is absolutely awful. It is so hard to be like, it's hard to feel good when you are tired. It's hard to get anything else right. So I hope that you find sleep, or that sleep finds you, something. In season 2 of Avatar: The Last Airbender, Aira sings in memory of his son, Lu Ten, who was killed during the siege of Ba Sing Se. This song is also a tribute to Mako Iwamatsu, the voice actor for Aira, who died having nearly completed recording his lines for season 2. During this scene, Aira sets up a small memorial to Lu Ten in Ba Sing Se. The words in the top left of Lu Ten's portrait roughly translate to General Aira, see you after we win the war, your loyal son, Lu Ten. I got that from an about thing on a lyric website. I would talk about it still. Everyone is welcomed and encouraged to ask questions and share their experiences they want as well. I can guarantee that Zebra Pig will have some sort of opinion about it. I can't guarantee I'll have an opinion, but we can talk about whatever. I mean, I'm not opinionated about everything, Miss Rod. Sheesh. I mean, I'm sure there's stuff that I just don't have an opinion about. Miss Rod's just totally throwing sus at me. I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a wholesome video of singing Happy Birthday. Yes, Mellow Man, I have seen the Happy Birthday video. It has definitely taken a tour. That's what we'll go with. It has taken a tour, which is wild and crazy to me. I just can't wrap my head around the degree of excitement that particular video generated. Yes, it's made the rounds. That's a good term for it. It's been everywhere. So for those people who don't know, I am both autistic and ADHD, which most people agree are underneath the neurodivergency category. One of the challenges about talking about being neurodivergent and neurodivergency in general is that it's a term that is not really concrete and defined. It's a term that is, the community is still kind of debating about what's included, what's not included. And it doesn't have, like, you can't look it up in the dictionary and find it. You can't, like, it's not a medical diagnosis or any of those things. So it's still kind of fluid, and that can make it difficult to talk about it. But the general idea is that neurodivergence is people who are differing in mental or neurological function from what is considered to be typical or normal neural function or mental functioning or neurotypical people. So that's a pretty broad umbrella, but that's how it's generally defined. Absolutely, Axe. I think that what classifies as neurodivergent is absolutely relevant to a person. And like, one autistic person might identify as being neurotypical and another person might not. You know, just because, you know, this label exists doesn't mean that everyone who has the same diagnoses are going to identify with this other additional label. So it's really important to understand that while terms are out there, that not everyone is going to identify with them. Some people might even find the neurodivergent term offensive. They might feel that it somehow, you know, dilutes or misdescribes their experience. So we have to keep that all in perspective. So it can be difficult to have these conversations because there isn't this set defined terminology, and a lot of it is in flux, and this happens frequently. And at times of generational change is often when these languages start to change, like when a generation hits their adulthood is oftentimes when new terms and terminology changes start to shift. And we're seeing that again. You know, we got a generation that's hitting their 20s, and we're seeing a lot of terms starting to shift and change. And this generationally, has a repeating pattern, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just something to be aware of, because one of the things that frequently happens in this time is that there's confusion about what the terms are. There's confusions about which terms should and shouldn't be used. There's generational differences in the way that the terms are used. And we have to remember that everybody has the right to label themselves in whichever way is most comfortable to them. And that's going to be different for everybody. You have ADHD, Mellow Man? Yeah. And it's horrible? Yeah. I do want to remind people that there are positive things about having ADHD. We're known for being energetic, for being problem solvers, for being creative thinkers, for being innovative, for being willing to take risks, for being friendly. We're more likely to introduce ourselves to other people. We're more likely to initiate relationships. We tend to be more accepting of other people and other differences, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, it comes with a lot of challenges, too, because executive dysfunction is a bitch. But that doesn't mean that the whole package is terrible and that the people who have that label are terrible. That is just what makes the conversation difficult at times, because there's no universal language that is agreed upon. Absolutely, Mr. Raj. Exactly. Doing a wiggle, it makes it really hard, because we have to try to work within things that are not always clearly defined, work within terms that are sometimes clinical terms. And then we have to understand that oftentimes terms that have a clinical definition are also used outside of the clinical sphere and take on a different context and a different definition. So a lot of these clinical terms end up having like almost a dual definition. So there's a lot of layers that make talking about all of this very complicated and difficult. And I will say that especially since streaming, I have run into the language challenge quite frequently. As an autist myself, it's not so much about diagnosis, it's about the way the typical human sensory inputs are processed and interpreted. Being active in the autism community, there's a big battle going on about self-diagnosis. An official medical diagnosis is only required for obtaining benefits as far as governmental benefits. Yeah, so cat lover Jerry Garcia. Absolutely. And that debate over clinical versus self-diagnosis is not limited just to the realm of autism. This also happens in the world of ADHD. People will self-diagnose, and people within the ADHD community have been debating whether or not to consider that diagnosis valid. What I will say on the topic of the validity of self-diagnosis is that all of the research done on self-diagnosis says that self-diagnosis is valid. The individuals who choose to self-diagnose, statistically speaking, according to the research, do accurately self-diagnose themselves. And if you think about the context in which someone would take on the identity of being autistic or having ADHD, these are heavily stereotyped, heavily stigmatized labels. These are labels that are generally viewed negatively in society. So people generally don't want a negative label unless it in some way really explains and they really identify with what that diagnosis offers them for a self-explanation. Like looking at the context of the diagnosis illuminates and gives you understanding to your life. So that's what the research shows us, is that the people who are self-diagnosing are the people who find illumination with the diagnosis, and that's why they're identifying themselves as having that diagnosis. So the research suggests that self-diagnosis is valid. However, the research on that is very limited, and we need to do more of it to really know for sure. But what research has been done does suggest validity. And this is, again, where the question of labels and use of labels and use within the clinical sphere and outside of the clinical sphere and outside of the legal world or within the legal world all have different connotations, because when you look at it within the clinical realm, being autistic has a very defined black and white set. This is what it is. But once you take it outside of and it's that clinical definition is also the legal definition. Once you take it outside of that sphere of that clinical legal world and you bring it into society, and you allow individuals to share their personal experience, of course, we're not going to match that definition exactly. None of us are. We're all going to have variations and differences, whether we have ADHD or autism. None of us, or depression or schizophrenia or anything, even diabetes. Nobody is going to exactly match a diagnostic criteria in their personal life. So there's always going to be a discrepancy between what the textbook says and what presents in real life. So what you end up with is this clinical legal definition and this experiential definition that's out in society as with individuals with the diagnosis are talking about our experiences. And that's part of why we end up with these challenges of what it means to be this thing. And I think that it's important that we respect individual people's labels. Like whatever label a person chooses to self-identify as, that we need to respect that. Even if we don't agree that that label fits them, even if we don't like that label, even if we don't like that they are choosing that label, even if we find that label personally offensive. People should have the right to self-identify however fits most comfortably for them. I mean, and that's really what this whole diversity movement is about being able to discover ourselves as individuals and express ourselves as individuals, however that is, and knowing that that's going to change over time, and knowing that that's going to be different for everybody, and knowing that inevitably that there are going to be people who don't like it and who are offended, and it's not going to match up with what other people believe about the same experience, because everybody's going to have a different experience. Yeah, I want to get tested for bipolar by a professional, and until I know for certain, I don't say I have bipolar disorder, because the truth is that I don't really know. I mean, yeah, Lily, it's one of those things that many people feel comfortable self-diagnosing and many people don't, and you're in the category of you don't. And if you're not seeking clinical treatment, you don't really need a clinical diagnosis. If you're not seeking legal benefits, then you don't need a clinical diagnosis. If you're just looking for self-understanding and self-discovery, and you're looking just to explore and you're looking for self-growth, then it's more about whether or not the label helps you better understand yourself. And you can get that understanding without a clinical diagnosis. And that's where the self-diagnosis movement has come from, because the reality is, with especially autism and ADHD, when you become an adult, there are not a lot of services available to treat ADHD and autism. So if you are diagnosed as an adult, there really isn't a huge amount of benefit for seeking clinical services. If you have ADHD, there's medication. Sometimes autistic individuals get medication, usually for their OCD-like symptoms. But for the most part, outside of medication, there really isn't treatment. I mean, there's some types of therapy that can help you with the grieving process and that can help you with the executive dysfunction, but it's very limited for adults. So that all being said, most of the benefit that comes from having the label as an adult is the self-understanding that comes from having a diagnosis. Problem is there's also a lot of people who don't have access to a professional diagnostic or the finances to have it done. Absolutely, ads. There's financial hurdles, there's social hurdles, there's stigma hurdles, there's all kinds of hurdles in getting a diagnosis. So even if they wanted the treatment benefits that come with those clinical diagnoses, there's absolutely barriers to getting that diagnosis. And one of them is absolutely the stigma that limits adults being diagnosed, limits people who are of differing genders. If you're not white cisgender male, you're really unlikely to be diagnosed autistic or ADHD. So there's a lot of hurdles to getting a diagnosis. And again, it's that question of how much do you really need that diagnosis? Is it worth the money? Is it worth fighting those social barriers? And if it's just about you trying to find social understanding, then maybe self-diagnosis is all you need.